X-Men and the Wolverine. It's 1989 and Marvel legends Stan Lee and Chris Claremont are in talks to bring the X-Men to the big screen. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. James Cameron was set to produce, Catherine Bigelow was set to direct, and Gary Goldman was on board to write. Bob Hoskins as Wolverine, Angela Bassett as Storm, it was all lined up. But then Cameron got sidetracked by SpiderMan, and the project fell into development limbo. Now fast forward to 2000, and it was 20th Century Fox now, with Bryan Singer at the helm, and finally, the X-Men were brought to theaters. Can you imagine if James Cameron produced X-Men films instead of 9 Avatar movies? What universe do I have to visit to see that X-Men movie? I gotta go there right now. Werewolf by Night. Now at first this project was not meant to be a Disney Plus special. At first it was lined up to be a feature film, as it should be. How amazing would that have been? Marvel began development in 2001, but sadly it never got to production. The project, involving Marvel Studios and Dimension Films, and even had Crystal Sky Pictures co-producing. It was all right there. It would have felt like a Spy Kids movie with some even weirder special effects, if you can believe that. Despite plans for a UK shoot starting in 2006, it was ultimately and sadly shelved. But by 2019, Marvel Studios aimed to integrate the character into the MCU, leading to a decision to develop Werewolf by Night for a special for Disney instead of a movie. I'll be honest, I loved Werewolf by Night. Every Halloween, we're gonna throw that into the mix of classics. That was a lot of fun. It's like Groot, but he's really aggressive and scary, right? What else could you ask for? She-Hulk. Back in the early 1990s, plans were in motion for a live-action She-Hulk film with Larry Cohen set to write and direct. And guess who was announced to bring Jennifer Walters to life? None other than Bridget Nielsen. She even posed for photos as both She-Hulk and her alter ego. But despite the buzz, the movie never made it to production. Fast forward to August 2019 and She-Hulk is finally getting her moment. Better late than never. She got her moment with a series on Disney starring Tatiana Maslany as the incredible green superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I honestly can't wait to see what the Russo brothers do with She-Hulk in the future. I really hope she's part of the main roster by time that comes around. Mark Ruffalo is great, but he's like, he's 60 years old. He's had like 9 movies. Let's move on. Channing Tatum's Gambit. Imagine the movie Magic Mike, but this time he's actually a magician. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Of all the studio's cancellations, this one is the most surprising, especially considering that filming for Gambit had already begun as of February 2019. So what happened here? Gambit's release was rescheduled 4 times after a series of schedule conflicts for its production team and cast, which pushed Gambit's filming dates at the same time as Disney's purchase of Fox in 2019. And that's where things got tricky. Delays are normal, more or less, in these kind of movies, especially with these big budget superhero flicks. But in this case, Gambit is dead. No magic spells can bring this project back from the grave at this point, especially considering he's Fox. Now, Disney permanently canceled Gambit in favor of later introducing the X-Men into the MCU. But finally seeing Channing Tatum get his moment in Deadpool and Wolverine was worth the wait. He is so funny, he fits the character so well. I was so happy to see him on screen and very, very surprised. What was your favorite part of Deadpool and Wolverine? Mine's a tie between Wesley Snipes and Channing Tatum, which I never thought I would say this week of all times, but here we are. The Amazing Spider-Man 3. So Gwen Stacy dies, spoilers. Spider-Man comes back at the end of the film, he fights Rhino, and then nothing. That's the end of his story. We just don't get to see him again. That's beyond me. After all that grief and growth, what happened to Peter 3? Well, 11 months before the release of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Sony announced a Part 3 and even Part 4 were actively in development. Things got hairy when Andrew Garfield publicly confirmed that he was not interested in playing the character after a 3rd installment. He wasn't even interested in renewing his contract. So now what? While the film was originally scheduled to be released on June 10th, 2016, this contractual standoff forced Sony to push The Amazing Spider-Man 3 back by 4 years. Yeah, Andrew Garfield would have been 49 at that time. This large delay of course ended up killing the project, with the series instead scrapped by Sony as part of the deal to bring Tom Holland's Spider-Man into the MCU. But never say never, we did eventually get Garfield back in 2021. Somehow, someway, we did it, and he looks amazing, pun intended. Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. Known for his distinctive styles in films like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, Edgar Wright was originally attached to Ant-Man long before the MCU's inception, before they went, nope, that's mine, thank you. He co-wrote the script with Joe Cornish, envisioning a unique standalone film with a tone very distinct from other MCU movies at the time. However, as the MCU expanded and its interconnected narrative became more complex with all these multiverse stories, Marvel Studios began to feel that Wright's vision for Ant-Man was not aligning well with the expanding universe that they had planned. There were disagreements over the script, with Marvel asking for revisions that would integrate the film more closely into the MCU, and Wright was not on board. He was committed to his original vision, and he was quite reluctant to make substantial changes. He just wanted to make a good standalone film, and honestly, what more can you ask for? Ultimately, these creative differences reached to a point where a mutual decision was made for Wright to leave the project. Peyton Reed took over as director, with the script undergoing rewrites to better fit the MCU's tone, and most importantly, their continuity. I liked Ant-Man a lot, but I really think we missed out on a classic. Edgar Wright is so good at what he does. Baby Driver? Holy crap, that's a great movie. Spider-Man 4. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man sequel was cancelled due to a combination of factors, primarily revolving around creative differences and timing issues. See, after Spider-Man 3 received mixed reviews, if you want to call it that, Raimi was keen to redeem the series with a fourth installment, a powerful follow-up film. He intended to introduce new villains, including the Vulture, played by John Malkovich, and possibly Black Cat. However, Raimi encountered persistent script problems and was not satisfied with any version of it, especially after Spider-Man 3. You want to come back swinging. He was particularly keen on ensuring that the film had a strong, well-developed story, something he felt Spider-Man 3 lacked. That's fair. Additionally, the studio, Sony, was pushing for a release date in 2011, creating a very tight schedule. Raimi, unwilling to compromise on the quality of the film and unable to meet the studio's deadline while delivering a film that he actually could be proud of, he ultimately decided to leave the project. Now, following his departure, you could guess, Sony chose to reboot the franchise with The Amazing Spider-Man, starting anew with a different director and cast. The cancellation of Spider-Man 4 marked the end of Raimi's run with the character, for now, closing the chapter on what had been one of the most influential series in modern superhero cinema. Man, I would sell my soul to see this movie. Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire? Please! The Incredible Hulk 2. Unlike most others on this list, The Incredible Hulk 2 was never formally announced, but the potential for a sequel to 2008's Hulk smash hit was impacted by several factors, notably issues surrounding its main star, Edward Norton, and Marvel Studios, of course, involving plans for the MCU. Edward Norton, who played Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, reportedly had disagreements with Marvel Studios over the script and the direction of the character. He's known to not be that nice on set as well. That's a very important part. He wanted a film that delved deeper into the psychological aspects of the Hulk, whereas Marvel had a completely different vision. They're like, yeah, we want to make a fun film, not a depressing art film. Thanks so much. These creative differences, along with rumors of difficult interactions during production and promotion of the first film, led to Norton being replaced by Mark Ruffalo in the MCU. This one I agree with. Mark Ruffalo is so great. I've only heard that Edward Norton's kind of a psycho on set, so I get it. We can move on from this one. Thank you for joining us on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time. Peace. He co-wrote the script with Joe Cornish, Oh, Cornish, I know that name, he's good. Just distracted myself. I'm like, oh, he did the Cornetto trilogy, that's good.